So we had the absolute pleasure of listening to you this morning. Do you come to these sorts of things often and speak at them often?
Do you get out very often? No, they don't let me out very often at all. I like speaking because running an online business, I didn't get to meet many of my customers. And when I come out and about, I learn so much. And I listen and people tell me an experience they did or all sorts. So, yeah, it's important for me to get out from behind my websites.
Yeah, okay.
So we thought we had this really great opening question. And we thought we were being really unique and innovative, and like we just like thought of this one. It was genius.
Because we were looking at photos of you online, and
yeah,
the one thing that's really stood out to us is that you're always in red.
Yeah.
But then they introduced you at Retail Global this morning, and the first thing that they asked you about was you being in red, and we just instantly were like, oh, okay, this is obviously so unoriginal, and the one thing you get asked about most, but we'd have to ask you about it anyway.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? I think one of our challenges is some of the decisions we have to make in a day. And when we're so busy, what can you give up? And Obama, for instance, only had 2 suits and, 5 white shirts or whatever. And that's one decision he doesn't have to make. And so even though I do have to choose between my red outfits, somebody once said to me, I looked good in it, and I was just like, oh, okay, tick. And obviously then I'm representing the brand, and red does stand out.
Yeah.
And it's funny how many people say, oh, I thought I saw you at this event, and I went up to this woman in a red dress. It wasn't you.
You were like, someone else is wearing my signature colour?
I know, and I don't own it. Not at all, of course not. Everybody looks great in red. Well, not everybody, but,
I don't think I do look good in red,
Nah,
actually.
I don't look good in red either. It's not my colour.
It
green,
suits you.
I like green, not red.
Yeah.
No.
It's good, but you probably know, given what you do. That's all I would say.
So are there times like where you're not in red? Like, is it only when you're out and about at an event and things like that? In the office, are you always wearing red?
On Monday, I was wearing a navy blue suit, a blue silk shirt, navy blue boots, and a red jacket, a long red colours and paddy jacket. Looked amazing, just saying.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, very nice, very corporate, very nice. But I was hot, so I took my red jacket off, and all day there was slacks and whispers going through the office because nobody could see that I'd taken my red jacket. They just saw me wearing blue, and they go, is Naomi okay? Does she not love us anymore? What's going on? And then I put my jacket back on, and they go, oh. It's so funny. But what that does mean is that I can literally be sitting somewhere in my jeans and another top, and people don't even see me.
Yeah, that's great. It's like, it's kind of like your costume.
It's my costume. It's my uniform.
Yeah.
So in addition to being like a really easy way of not having to think about your wardrobe in the morning, which I love because as women, we particularly have like so many choices, which is awesome. But then it's also like takes us longer to get ready. But was it also like a strategic decision that like, okay, I'm going to represent the brand. The brand has the word red in it. So I better be in red every day?
Kind of, but that sounds far cleverer than it really was. I remember years ago, one of the things was I had to build trust. I had to build trust for the brand, and really an easy way to do that is trust for the person behind the business. And somebody once said to me, and being a Melbourne girl, originally everybody wears black in Melbourne all the time. And the way to be memorable and to stand out is to wear colour, particularly in Melbourne, because nobody does. The further north you go, the brighter the colours are and the less you actually stand out. So I did it originally to be memorable and to build trust for the brand. And of course somebody said I look good in it. And then it's just kind of stuck. But it has become a bit of an Achilles heel too. Like if I see something really beautiful in a certain colour, I go, but I know I'll never wear it. I'll never have an occasion to wear it.
Do you literally not? You only wear red?
I pretty much only wear red if I'm at the house.
Like, what about if you're just like going to a personal wedding, like your friend's getting married?
Yeah, or my nephew got married recently, and I wore a dress that was aqua and orange and red. Jacket.
Okay, so it's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
One thing we did want to ask you about is because you are so great at kind of being the personality of your brand. You know, when you think of RedBalloon, the first thing you think of is you. And why did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to become the personality?
So I've been a marketer my whole career, and before I started my own businesses, I worked for big businesses. I worked for Apple, I worked for IBM, I worked for KPMG, and I worked for Ansett, which was an airline, and I worked in marketing. And what all of those companies have in common is big budgets. You know, they have budgets to build brands, build personas, talk to audiences. I had none of that. And so if you think about a business, what you're trying to do is create personality and brand essence and some level of emotional connection. And so because I was cheap and had no money, I was like, well, I have to use my own personality. So it's about getting out from behind the website, meeting people, shaking people's hands, and letting people know, oh, I met her once, I saw her speak once, or I read her book. And because of that, that connection and colour, colour like smell and taste, they're really big triggers of memory and emotion. So I've used colour as an emotional trigger.
How cool is that?
Sounds a little more scientific than it might actually have been.
Oh, no, I don't believe you. But it's funny that you say that in terms of personal brand, because we feel the exact same way with our brand that we've built, and we can see the way that people are purchasing now, particularly like, they don't want, I guess when we were a smaller brand, we were always trying to act like a big brand. But now that we're kind of like growing, we realize that that's the essence, like that's the special sauce, when you can kind of create that personal connection or that trust that you just mentioned that I know is important to you after hearing you speak this morning.
And it's about belief. I believe in you. And it's as if you are a friend. And more, people want to believe in where they spend their dollars is for good. They understand it, that they have some level of appreciation for what that business represents. And people are voting with their wallets more than they ever have before.
Yeah, and when we think about like other big companies, like big online giants like a TripAdvisor. I just think of TripAdvisor and I'm like, oh, it's some website where I can go on and book a holiday. But then I think of a website like RedBalloon and I instantly think of you and this face and this person behind it. And I just feel like that is so clever.
Yeah, it is, but it can also be just a rod for your own back too. I left RedBalloon as the CEO in 2011, and then David and I created the Big Red Group, and then I acquired my own business so that I got it back again. And as part of our whole thesis to do with experiences doing different jobs, and now we have Adrenaline and If Only and the Ready brand
And you launched If Only yesterday, right?
I know. How cool is that?
We were looking at it. It's got such cool things on there.
I know. It's really cool.
Yeah, there was like a meet and greet with Ariana Grande at her concert. I was like, I want to buy this.
Oh, yeah. And it's for good. That's the wonderful thing. The reasons why these luminaries, as we're calling them, because they're not all celebrities. Some of them are just, they're absolute perfectionists or specialists at what they do. So we're calling them luminaries. And, what's so delightful about that is that we give them a profile. Many people are ambassadors for charities, but they actually don't know how to make money for the charity from that. Like, what do I do? Sell my time, or what do I do? Show up to somebody's party. So we've created a program by which luminaries and celebrities can support the charities in which they want to promote.
Oh, so when you buy on the website, you're getting the experience and also supporting a charity.
Each of the luminaries has a nominated charity. Of where a proportion of the funds, because there's obviously a whole lot of infrastructure that goes on, but a proportion of the funds go to their charity of choice, and that proportion is completely up to them.
Cool.
Yeah, so once the production costs are covered, everything else, it's up to the celebrity or luminary where they send it.
Amazing. So we really do want to get into, your backstory. We've read a little bit about how you started your business.
A little bit.
We've
read a lot.
We have spent a lot of time Googling you.
A very long time ago.
Well, I mean,
back in 2001.
And it was just
take you there.
Yeah.
So when you were kind of in that initial stage of wanting to start your own business, how did you come up with the idea for RedBalloon?
It actually was suggested to me I was working as a marketing consultant because I'd left my corporate career because I had 2 small children, and I was just a freelance marketer. And one of my clients said, the whole tech rec thing was going on, and he said, there's this concept in the UK called Red Letter Days, and it's a catalogue and call centre business. He goes, we could do that. We could do it online, and it'd just take a bit of marketing. And actually, it is a marketing business. What we do is effectively brand 2,500 small businesses, and we deliver them customers. So instead of kind of paying for their Facebook marketing or Google marketing as we now think of it, their commission, because we just work like a travel agent, pays for customers. So we're a distribution partner for them. Mm-hmm. So, it came from one of my clients.
So what you did so well was branding, and you thought, oh, here's this opportunity where I can brand people. And I feel like small businesses are notoriously bad at branding themselves. So if you can kind of like match them delivering that experience with you creating that, you know, sales point, then that's like the perfect match.
Yeah, I'm a marketer. Like, I've only ever done marketing in my whole career, and I consider myself now the chief marketing officer of the Big Red Group. That's my job, and I look at branding, I look at customer essence, I look at the experience over, and I'm very much the voice of the customer. But it's not that small businesses can't or that they don't want to. They actually don't know how. And when you're so busy searching for the next customer, it's really hard to be strategic. So I don't blame them in any way because they have the intent but not necessarily the know-how.
No, totally. And there's only kind of so much you can do as a small business. Like, you know, you're trying to run the business and then you have to think about your logo and you have to think about your branding and your social media and everything now.
And marketing is not an activity. It's a way of doing business that is never ending and it's continual. So it's like, oh, where's my marketing plan? Great, it's finished. No, it's not. And that's a very big investment for a lot of organisations, and you know, it's expensive and it's not getting any cheaper.
Yeah. So when you talk about like small businesses, I know like we know so many people that you know, millennials and older and younger, like wanting to start their own business, and they come up with this idea and then they're like, well shit, what do I do now? Like, how do I actually start a business once I've decided what it's going to be?
Where do I get my customers from? You know?
Yeah, like what were the first steps that you took?
Ideas are cheap. And it is all about execution. And the other thing is it's about persistence. And I talk about this in my first book, Live What You Love, about the difference between persistence and pig-headedness. And, you know, pig-headedness is I can do it, but you're not necessarily listening, adapting or responding based on what you're learning. Whereas persistence is about keeping your North Star, and you know where you want to go, but you're not getting there. So what do I need to learn? How do I need to adapt? What do I need to change? And that's sticking with the North Star, but you might have to go sideways, left ways, back ways before you actually can get there. And I think that's an important part of entrepreneurship, is understanding that there is no clear or easy path. And who would have thought I would still be working this hard, you know, 20 years into my entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, that's funny that you say persistence, because it's something that we often tell people as well. And I often liken the fact that Stephanie and I are very long-term relationship people. So like we've both had boyfriends for 7 years, and before that we both had boyfriends for like 5 years. And you know, we were starting a business together, and you know, we were going to stick it out and we were going to figure out how we were going to get there, because we're long-term relationship people and we're not looking for a win overnight. And I feel like so often like people expect it to just take off, and that's something that you were talking about this morning. You know, you said it took you was it 2 months and 4 days after launching your website to have the first sale?
You're quite right, though. It is a long haul, and I do worry about the nature of social media, and particularly Twitter, believe it or not, 140 characters, instant gratification, and if you know, the world doesn't happen straight away, then what happens? We are increasingly fickle and addicted to the you know, the what's next, you know, and that really worries me, when actually it's about the long haul. And people do ask me, when was I going to give up? Because I wrote the first marketing plan on the 1st of April, invested $25,000 of family savings, but we didn't launch until the first week of October. And by the way, the we was me and the dog, you know, Dexter, head of security. That's not true, actually. I had some people around me, and but the point is that in that time so much had happened, and September 11, the dot-com crash, tech wreck. So the world had shifted again, and I literally thought I was late to market and maybe the internet was over. And so I turned the website on. I know, can you imagine? Like, it's such a different world. And we turned the website on, absolutely nothing happened. And I'd spent all my money. I had no money for marketing. And I look at the ifonly.com launch, and, you know, the infrastructure and the support and all of this stuff, and they go, it's really hard. You know, we've got to start from nothing. I go, oh, my God, you've got so much compared to what I had.
Been there.
Yeah, exactly. And so every day I'd take the kids off to school, I'd come home, no customers today, maybe tomorrow. Didn't have any money to spend, but, I was just ferreting around and trying things. And I do honestly the worst marketing, very ashamed. I'd write what we would now call clickbait, but we didn't think of it as that. So I would write a little display ad. It might say wet, wild and wonderful, which was to our water sports, Honestly, really, it was so bad. I'm embarrassed to say. And I got so desperate that I tied balloons around my briefcase and walked through Martin Place, hoping that somebody would see it and, maybe come and buy something.
That's pretty clever.
Do you think? Or is
I
that
loved
just
that.
Yeah,
desperate?
I used to run this market called the Up and Comers Fashion Market for emerging designers and vintage sellers in Melbourne. And like you said before, everyone in Melbourne wears black, so much black. So we had, were you dressed in black?
I was there.
I got like all my friends to be my models.
I was in year 11. I think I skipped that day of school.
And I dressed them all in complete black, and they had like picket kind of signs, and they were like marched in a line of like 5 people. I think your ex-boyfriend did it as well.
Yeah, he did.
And it said like, something about like, get out of your black funk at the Up and Comers Fashion Market. And it was like on the back page of The Age. And the other day I saw a girl and she even said to me, oh, you're that girl that did that protest thing in the city.
And it was like 12 years ago or something.
I don't think it was that long ago.
Yeah, it was.
It's funny though, isn't it? And it just has resonance.
Yeah, like doing something small like that can have impact. And it's like when you get budget, you kind of then, you go too big and you're like, okay, how can we do this like crazy idea? But really, like I feel like we've come up with our best and most creative ideas when we've had no budget, and you just got to get real scrappy with it.
Absolutely. And people love the authenticity of that.
They do.
The realness of it. In fact, sometimes if it just looks too flash, people are like, oh, that's nice for them, they've got so much money, and it really depends on who your customer is, who your audience is, and who you're trying to appeal to.
Well, I'm really interested to know though, so like, we heard you talk this morning about like, it was a long game for you, and you weren't just like making sales in that first year or second year, it was a slow growth. And I kind of turned to Jess and I was like, this is interesting because, we've had, dips at times in what we're doing, and it's how do you kind of tell the difference between when you're onto something and you've just kind of got to, play the slow game, or when you're just kind of like holding on to something for dear life, but it's not really working?
Yeah, and it's really difficult, which is back to the persistence versus pig-headedness. And I guess I always say if I don't win a sale, I've got to know why. And I encourage and I make sure that I've got those listening posts. Because, and I'm not talking about every transaction on the RedBalloon website, but what I do know is my corporate customers, if they stop buying for some reason, why is that so? What's missing? How else can I serve them? And I can learn so much in that. And I can't tell you, is it a trend? Is it a wave? Is it a dip? Or are you out of business? And I can't tell you that. But for me, it's about having the listening posts to try and discover authentically. And the hardest thing for us as entrepreneurs is that we keep trying to sell. So it's often hard for us to really listen and just say, when somebody says, it just doesn't appeal to me, but it's so fabulous, how could you not? We can't help ourselves. And I think that's the point, is how we can just listen, learn, observe, be with it, discover. And also the other things is, of course, is understanding that more than ever, micro audiences can deliver incredibly great returns for businesses. And actually it's an easier time ever than to find micro audiences, because your micro audience might be anywhere on the planet. Left-handed noodling devices, I only want people who have got a left hand and need a noodling device. And so therefore, but you've got 99.99% of the population are not interested. And so it's making sure that you are actually have the... this morning I spoke to it. I said, what is the job you're being hired to do? And that word hired is really important in that, because I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, lots of people pitching who are saying, I'm solving this problem and all these people. And it's one thing to solve a problem, but it's another thing to find out whether somebody would pay for it.
Totally.
And what level of service they're prepared to pay for.
And so in terms of like listening and like just having that open communication, like is it surveying? Like how do you look at what's going on and kind of keep that open communication with your customers?
Surveys are one thing, but I also did mention this morning that often you get really you get everybody who hates you, that you've ever done any mistake, and they're going to be really vehement. And if you only look at that, honestly, you'll want to out of business. And then there's the other ones who kind of like super fans, and doesn't matter what you do. So it's about finding the midships of those who are prepared to make the effort, the energy, and take the time to think it through and think about it. Because when people say, oh, it's amazing, you actually didn't learn anything from that either.
100%.
So it is about how can I have some nurturing, really frank conversations with people. And I actually learnt this years ago when I was with a company called Ansett, and I was working in their frequent fly program, and I brought in the second top tier travellers, because the top ones were always on a plane, so you could never get them. But the second ones, and I brought them in and created an advisory council. And I just said, tell me about travel, tell me what you love, what you hate. And they had a whole bunch of suggestions. Unfortunately for me, working in the airline, it was hard for me to affect change. Like, they said things, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. But what I do know is those people in that moment became advocates as well. And in fact, years and years later, I was out at visiting a CEO of a utility company, and he said, I know you. And I go, oh, okay. And he said, no. I was on your advisory committee at Ansett. And I was a bit embarrassed because, I didn't manage to actually execute much. And he goes, just so you know, I put it on my CV. And he said, and I used to go to barbecues, and I'd say to all my friends, I'm on the advisory board for Ansett. If there's anything you'd like me to let them know, just tell me and I'll make sure it gets to them. So I think there's many ways of engaging with customers and with people. But what we often do is, as entrepreneurs or even further into the organisation, we assume we know, because we're only listening to the two ends of the spectrum, either the terrible or the great, and actually the real learnings is in the middle.
Yeah.
How do we find those middle ones?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I loved even this morning you touched on calling customers as well, because that's a funny one. And like, I'm not going to lie, I have been known from time to time to call up a customer and use an alias because I don't want them to know that it's me. But then I guess that goes against everything we were kind of talking about wanting to, actually like create that connection. And if I had said, oh, it's Jess, like I'm the co-founder of Tubes, then like people might have been like, oh my God, fan for life.
They might have been too. But last week, there's a whole bunch of corporate opportunities for our businesses. And I just took 3 or 4 of them myself. And I picked up the phone and I talked to them about what their application was and what that. And they said, we're really surprised you called. And I go, don't be. This is what it takes to run a business, is staying connected to customer. I said, I just want you to be really frank with me, and I want to discuss it with you and make sure I know my product. It's really easy to be kind of the show pony, and I will never be that if I don't truly live and breathe with my customers. And truly they are flattered. And I know these are corporate sales and corporate people. But I remember for our millionth experience that we served, I called the customer. And I didn't say, oh, we like to call all our customers, because that would have been a lie. But I called and I said, oh, hi, my name's Naomi Simson. And I wanted to call you to thank you for your business today. And I said to her, you are our millionth customer. And she said, this is bullshit. Who put you up to this? Was it Jess? Was whatever? And she went through this whole thing. And I go, no. No, it really is. It was the 1st of April, and she thought it was an April Fool's
Day. That's amazing.
Oh, it was really funny.
You needed to FaceTime.
Yeah, I know. We didn't have FaceTime in those days. FaceTime.
Well, I think like social media as well is like such an awesome tool now that, you can connect with your customer and you can see all this data that you couldn't before. You can just get on your Instagram and look, these are the age groups, these are what they like. And I feel like that is such a powerful tool that now we try to utilize. We try to go in and like engage with the community and speak to them there. And, obviously get the occasional troll, but you do get, genuine feedback there, and you get to know more about the customer, which is, as you've said, so important.
Yeah. Just remember the word media. Just remember who is the customer. So if you look at your phone, the top 5 apps are all owned by Facebook, are they? They're all, or is it the top 10 that they own 4 of them? They own WhatsApp.
Oh, they do own WhatsApp now.
Messenger and Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. They're all owned by Facebook.
True.
And so if you think about who is the customer is the one who is paying. They do not do it for the love of it. And so, and whilst they're hiding behind their algorithms, the challenge for most small businesses is one day they spend $8 getting a customer, the next day they're spending $80 and they don't know why. And I did a little test. I do this test on my own Instagram, and every Monday morning I write a little motivational quote. And so, these were just going gangbusters, thousands of this and being viral and whatever. After 4 weeks, 70. 30, because they're realising it's not the content. The content's no real different, because they realise, she'll put some money behind it.
Yeah.
And that's fine because that's their business model. But I have no commercial benefit of doing this. None at all. Like, I don't care, honestly. I just do it because people are curious about what I'm thinking or what I'm seeing or whatever. And Monday morning setup for me is an important part of the week. Set your head up well for the week. You can play full out all week and then go on Friday night and fall asleep again. Wake up again on Monday. So I really caution business owners to remember it is a media that is driven by algorithms to ensure that they maximise their shareholders' return. And as such, there is no consistency in pricing.
Totally. And, for us, we've seen that, and we were just speaking on the social media panel about this, that putting things out there on Facebook and Instagram or working with influencers, it's kind of like a form of PR now. It's not really how you're going to drive your sales, because if you want to drive sales, you have to put budget behind it, because that's the way Facebook wants it to be. You mentioned something there, your Monday morning setup. What does that look like?
I really plan my week, and I try to, so I don't have appointments on Fridays because I need to get work done. I need to get thinking done, and I write a lot. And if I don't have writing time, it won't ever get done. And so Mondays are my internals days. Tuesday and Wednesday are externals. Thursdays is, ideally no meetings, but that doesn't happen. So I just try and set up my week so that I'm productive, but also set myself up emotionally. And my husband, fabulous man that he is, my gorgeous husband Stu, and I have a plan. Like, we have a North Star, and we look at each other each week and we say, did we move the game forward this week? Have we made the world a slightly better place because of the work that we did? And I think that's important, because having worked so hard for so long, you got to kind of say, is this worth it? Have I improved something? And that's where my 2,500 small business customers who we represent every day come in, because I know I make a material difference to their commercial well-being and their families and their livelihoods.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of change in legislation, and that's shifting. Change in legislation is they make gift vouchers valid for 3 years. And at the time, I was very vocal about this would impact small business.
Is that instead of 1 year?
Instead of 1 year.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, with 1 year voucher, people know they've got 1 year and they book it in. They actually get on with it. With 3 years, they think they've got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So with a gift voucher, that sits on your balance sheet as a contingent liability, and it's not income. And so when that income can't go to your profit and loss, it means you can't make a profit. And if you can't make a profit and you've got bank loans and so forth, the pressure is material. So at the time when they did it, I want people to take their experiences. I do not want them to expire. But it's that human behaviour. And I knew it was going to happen. And I just, at the time, I kept talking about it, and now it's happening. So we're doing our best to look after a lot of small business clients as the whole kind of
So you mentioned,
changes.
oh, sorry. You mentioned there that you and your husband take that time each week. You've got your North Star.
He doesn't work with me, by the way. He's too fabulous for that.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sure that's not true, because he was in the
just
audience supporting you this morning.
He just comes to surfers for the fun thing.
Yeah.
He's that great.
But I love that you said, you have this North Star, which I feel like a lot of people can get that first step of, okay, what do I want? But then you take it a step further, and each week you check in and you say, have we taken steps towards reaching that North Star? Because I feel like it's June tomorrow or today. Is it tomorrow or today? I don't know.
Tomorrow.
But every time I feel like anyone looks at a calendar, they freak out, because it's like, oh, what? I just made my New Year's resolutions and now it's June. And I feel like that's such an important part of, staying accountable and staying on top of it, is having those weekly catch-ups. Do you have a fun Sunday night dinner or something like that? Or you just
Yeah, we've got some lovely rituals, but In January, in the 1st of January, we have our gold books and we write the plan for the year. And there's hardly much about business because obviously there's business planning and all that sort of thing. But there's a lot of personal goals in there, things that we want to achieve, want to experience, want to see, who we want to be for others, contribution we want to make to community. And that is a book that we do check in on and see how we're going. And we do have a plan, and every year we have a theme.
Oh, I love a theme.
So this year is out of the box. Got to try things we haven't tried before.
New experiences.
Yeah, new experiences of just doing things that maybe we don't even really want to do, which is kind of funny. But this theme is out of the one year was just about fun. Another one was the good life. And the good life for us was about connecting to family and friends and making a really intentional effort about entertaining and hosting because, you know, we have a beautiful life, but unless we're intentional about seeing our friends and family, Christmas comes around, we go, oh, catch up next year. So we're very intentional about hosting and entertaining a lot.
Yeah. You guys are such marketers. I love it. Like, I feel like you approach your whole life like you're marketing your lives.
Yeah, I don't mean to. We have bad days too. And, you know, we've got 4 kids and a dog and, you know, we're very normal really.
So, I mean, listening to you for longer than 3 minutes, you can tell you're obviously like super passionate about what you do. And, you know, we touched on it. You launched your business in 2001. How the hell do you stay so passionate about what you're doing for that many years?
Yeah, she's either crazy or stupid. You know, it is hard. And some days I don't want to play. I'd be lying to say not. And sometimes I'm just like, could I not just get something right? Or have I not learnt from this yet? I've made the same mistake 10 times, and that's the definition of being an idiot, stupidity. So, you know, it's not like it's always easy. But reminding myself of why we shift the way people experience life, having a scoreboard and being able to listen to customers and knowing that you made a difference, you kind of keep going. And my business partner and I, David, we're great friends, but great foils for each other as well because we're completely different. We've got the same value set, the same vision, but we have absolutely different strengths and skill sets. And he's the CEO. I couldn't do what he does, only because actually after 20 years, I don't want that level of operational detail. It's not my strong suit. I'm a big picture person. I'm a relationship person. So I'm now very much able to play to my strengths, and I love it.
And we did want to ask you about was, you know, you've talked about how like you were coming up in this business. You know, it was like the .com boom, and, you know, tech is obviously such a male dominated industry. How was that for you? You know, now with Instagram, with social media, we have like girl boss movements, and, you know, I feel like there's a lot more
support groups, like-minded bitches drinking wine,
exactly,
all the good things to encourage us so we can band together as women. But you kind of existed and built things in a world where that wasn't the case.
That was just a mindset. So what if that was just a story? How would you be different? And what would you do differently? So that's because my normal might have been different than other people's normal. So my mother, her mother was a bookkeeper for GJ Coles, which is, you know, now Coles. She worked as a bookkeeper, so her mother always worked. And my mother went off to work when I was a tiny little tot, and she worked in one of the early computers in Australia in the Monash Maths department. And my mother worked in computing her whole career. That was my normal. And she worked for an amazing entrepreneur, a woman by the name of Lindsay Catamol, who had a big business called Aspect Computing, which was sold to Kaz and ultimately sold to Telstra and in IBM mainframes. This was my normal. So when that's your normal, I never saw it as odd, and I never thought that women weren't in IT because my mother was in IT. Her boss was a female in IT, and that was her normal. In fact, when my mum started in computing, it was 50% women and 50% men because it was seen as an administrative job, punching cards and doing all this stuff. It was only when they made computer science, maths as a prerequisite, that became to be more male dominated. And my mum was one of the founders of the Computer Society of Australia. This was my normal. So one of the reasons I get up on the stage is to be other people's normal. Because if you can shift the way you think about it, then you're carrying less baggage and you can be who you need to be in that circumstance. You don't tell yourself the story that I'm special, I'm different, or I shouldn't be here. My daughter's a mathematician. She studied maths. Discrete mathematics, something really hard. She tells me all about it, and I go, that's good. And she's working as a data scientist for Quantium. And that's because that's what she saw as possibility. And it was never not that it wasn't. She could have whatever she wanted to do. And so if we can shift our own mindset about what is normal, then we can forever move the game. And the one thing that I really challenge people on is to take any gender out of the conversation. So when people say, you're an amazing female entrepreneur.
Oh, that is
like,
my
I'm an
worst.
entrepreneur.
And I just go, really? Did we not notice I was a female? We didn't need to put that there. Because in that moment, then we've pigeonholed me.
Yeah.
And so therefore I'm just entrepreneur, I'm just founder, I'm just business leader. And so I am that for others, which is one of the main reasons I write books. I get up on stages because I can be that for others. And the number of people who come up to me and say, oh, my daughter's studying commerce, or they love you on the TV or whatever, and that's because I get to be their normal.
Yeah, you're so right. Now that I've never really thought about it before, but we had kind of a similar situation. Like we come from a long line of very strong female role models who like were always, there's only women in our family, a lot of women, and always really like strong business minded. And so the same, like when people kind of asked us like, oh, like how do you have the confidence to kind of put yourself out there? Like the answer is always for us, well, that was our normal, like that was what we saw growing up, so that's what we became. So it's pretty cool though that then you can kind of say, I want to be that for others.
Totally. And I think that you know, like even now, like I have female friends who like they are having kids, and it's kind of like, oh, they're still expected to stay home to some degree, and it's like important that they get out there and that they work to
if
show
they want
to, which a lot of the time they do, but that they get out there and that they work to show their kids and teach them those same stories that we've had the opportunity to learn.
So my definition of success is choice over your time. And so I think it's really important, as long as it's a choice for people, that they get to make that choice. And our job as employers is to make sure it's easy for people to come back, whether it's male or female. And it doesn't matter to me. I would just argue if people do want to have a career, they need to stay connected to their career, even if they're choosing to be full-time parents. It's great. It's such a special time to be with children. I love being a parent, best job. But I chose to adjust my life to be a parent as well as have a career. You know, I left corporate life because I wanted to spend time with my kids. And then they didn't see me much, really, but never mind.
Okay, so we'd love to talk about Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they find you?
I got no idea.
How did you find them?
I didn't find them. I got an email from somebody, and they said they were producing a TV show called Shark Tank, which I'd never heard of. And I asked somebody in the office, I said, have you ever heard of a show called Shark Tank? I just thought it was a joke. And she said, oh, yeah, you'd love it. And I said, will I get wet? She goes, I have no idea. So I had never heard of it. And quite frankly, when I got that email, I wrote back and I said, oh, look, sorry, I'm just a bit busy and I got a lot on, which is true. And they said, not a problem, we'll come to you. And I said, oh, I'm so busy. And I live in Sydney, but I said, oh, I'm in Melbourne. And they said, oh, it's fine, we'll come to you, wear suits. And I just said the name of some, coffee shop on Flinders Lane. And I arrive, and then there's a film crew and lighting crew, there's audio there. And I go, I thought we were just having a coffee. He goes, well, just in case, I wanted to capture a bit in case I had to show the executives at the network. And I go, oh, okay, so this is serious. Kind of embarrassing, Flinders Lane coffee shop, and you walk in there and there's lights and cameras everywhere. So that was pretty funny. And then I said to them, I said, no, I don't really want to do it, and I won't be a token female. So unless you've got another woman, I knew they were speaking to Janine. You see, every other Shark Tank around the world has only ever started with one woman at best.
Yeah, I know, because I used to watch the British version, and it was so cool to see both of you and Janine on there, and such powerhouses as well.
No, thank you. Even in the US, Laurie and Barbara didn't appear together until series 5.
I think Bethany Frankel's on it now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually watch I actually had never seen an episode, and I
I
haven't
hate
seen,
Shark Tank.
yeah, and I've never seen any other countries' shows, and I've never seen a full episode anywhere else in the world. And one of the reasons is because I just want to be myself, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to mimic my deals or copy anything else from any of the others. But no, it was really important. And what I can say is that gender wasn't an issue for us on our set, and it's been an issue on other sets around the world in terms of, oh, this is a woman's business or whatever. And I can truly say the blokes on our show invest in female-led businesses as much as male. There is no... And if you look at it, actually, women-led businesses get more investment on our show than anywhere else in the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's also because they ask for less, and they're probably far more realistic in terms of the valuations.
That's another
there's
problem
more
there.
than one reason of
Yeah.
why that might have happened.
Mm-hmm. So how was it being on that? We want to know all about it. Like, was
It's
it?
so funny. It's kind of one of the things that I have done in my life.
Yeah, I think
And
because it's so public, obviously, it's something that people
it's true, but
associate
I
you so strongly
forget.
with.
I forget, and I get. It's just kind of funny for me, at this event, and people are like, "Can I have my photo taken with you?" I go, "Sure."
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. Not a problem. For me, it's more interesting when people come up and tell me that because they saw the show, they had this conversation. It was a real family show, like little kids, old people, all together yelling at the TV, "Don't do it! That's a con. It's
Yes.
not real."
Yeah. Yeah, we all love to have our say.
Yeah, everyone can have an opinion, and it is a great leveler. Yeah, it's a great show.
And you mentioned that now you kind of get pitched to all the time.
Yeah.
Funny, because we wanted to I'm kidding.
No, that's fine. You're right.
Absolutely not. That
I'll
comes
do
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that even you have been known to be sitting on an airplane with a seat next to you, and someone will come up and pitch an idea.
Did that really happen?
Yeah.
What do they pitch to you? Like, what? Are they trying to get investment or?
No, they're just like, "What do you think about this for an idea?" So it's not really a pitch, and they're not really that. Some people get really offended when I say thank you so much. That's really gorgeous. Maybe read my book, Ready to Soar, which is that, or and I say, "Look, my dance card's just really full right now," and they're a little offended. But it's not. I can't help everybody. I'm learning how I can best navigate my role in the community to have the biggest impact, and that's through my speaking, through the TV show, writing books, and providing that. But one by one is really, really hard. And so people will often ask me for mentoring. I reckon I'd be a crap mentor. Actually, that's not true. I've mentored
I think
lots
you'd be
of
a
people.
great mentor.
I actually mentor a bunch of people for all sorts of different reasons. But a friend of mine, actually, Bobby Marlab and Adina, they run mentor walks. And mentor walks is in Australia, of course it's in Australia. It's in Melbourne now, just opening up in Geelong, in Canberra, Sydney, Brisbane, Wollongong. And it's once a month with senior women like myself, old bats, out with the younger ones, and you just go for a walk. And it's really nice because one mentor is maybe with 3 or so younger people, and it's a lovely rhythm, and I think it's a beautiful program, and that's called Mentor Walk. So I would go there before coming here, is all I'm saying. You've got to get a better hearing.
That's such a good idea, though, because so many like one thing that we always tell people is like, we have so many mentors that's been so instrumental into what we're doing, and the first thing people say is, how do I find a mentor? So that's really cool. Mentor walks.
yeah.
I'll definitely look at that. And then
I would also say, if you want a mentor, know what question you want answered, because it's not hanging out with me that's going to make you successful.
Yeah.
It's knowing what is it that you're really struggling and you're looking for experience on, rather than, so tell me how to be successful. I don't know.
Yeah, we're red.
Hard work. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely for us. We have some great mentor relationships, and we'll go to them. We'll meet with them. Maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once every couple of months, but the day before we'll try to send them a list of questions that we have in our business at the moment, and that way they kind of, if they get the chance to just look over it quickly, and we're going there, and we know their time is so precious, and we appreciate their valuable time, so that way we get to have like an hour session, and we know we're getting as much out of it as possible. And now that we've started to mentor other people, we've through our shoes, we've put together a fund to fund other entrepreneurs that happen to be women, and we also mentor them as well, and we can see how much more we're able to help them by them sending us through these set questions, and then we can kind of prepare and help them on these specific things.
Yeah. Process.
Totally.
Exactly.
Are there like specific things that you saw, you know, through Shark Tank and all these randoms coming up to you? You've obviously been pitched a lot of businesses. What's kind of like a secret sauce that you've found that is, you know?
Or what do you like? What's something that stands out as special to you?
It's really important that you know who your audience is. So you might be the world's expert at something, and I might not know anything about it. So it's your job to bring me into that world really quickly. And that's the ability of telling a story that is inspiring. And as you heard me say this morning, I talk about the job you're being hired to do, hired in price, commercial outcome. And so if you can speak to that, because I want to know if you know who your customer is, what job you're being hired to do, how many are there, and can you find them affordably? And if I'm in your world, then and you can get me into that world, then you're far more likely to get a hearing. And the other thing is that, in fact, I reread something that Smart Company wrote, and they said Naomi Simson said that blah, blah, blah. Some of the entrepreneurs have said that we were tough on them. And I said, well, we have an expectation that we're going to get a return. You can't go to a bank and say, I'll pay you back sometime. That's just rude, and they wouldn't lend you money. So respecting an investor's money is really, really important, and I think that that's a really fundamental miss with a lot of startups. They go, great, I've got the money now. No. It's not your money. It's somebody else's money. You are merely the custodian of that. And it's just this fundamental respect, and that really bothers me, that people don't. I earned every single dollar I have. Nobody gave me a cent. And the respecting of that, I think, is really important.
You never took on investment?
I've never taken investment. The bank supports us now with our roll-up and the scale that we're putting in, just with, borrowings and loans and things like that. And they've been very, very supportive. But no, we are self-funded.
Looking back on your time at Shark Tank, is there like one pitch that stands out to you as like heartwarming or funny or like a great story you could share?
There was many that didn't make it to air, and I was often sad about that because they did all the work and they got none of the exposure. But every season we shot about 100 pitches and only about 60 made it to air. So that's 40 on the chopping room floor. And some of those were just incredibly great, but it's about entertainment, and they just weren't different enough from something else. So, the producers are in the business of making television, and we're in the business of making good business deals, and sometimes that didn't necessarily meld. So I remember second series, the producer was in our ear and she's saying, oh, go for the backstory, like that MasterChef moment, that voice moment where what's the backstory? And we're like, we don't care about their backstory. We only care about their future story. And I remember Steve literally took his earpiece out, and they never told us what to say or anything. They just would say, we've got enough, or you can wrap up, or could you sit up straight, Naomi, and put your knees together? Okay. So that's the sort of thing they were saying in our ear. But one day he just took the earpiece out and he goes, it's my money. You can F off. And they never tried to influence again.
What a diva.
I know. Oh, he is. He's a fabulous diva. He's really great. So, we weren't interested in their backstories. We weren't interested in the drama, and that's kind of the melding between we're looking for entertainment, but we were far more interested in who they are. And I never want to judge anybody from where they've come from. I only want to judge them based on where they're going to.
Yeah. So we saw that you often say that happiness is a journey, and we just wanted to ask you a little bit about that. And what do you mean by that?
So many parents, when asked what you want for your children, they say, I just want my kids to be happy. And of course I want my kids to be happy. However, it is one of many human emotions, and it is not a constant state of being. And happiness, after all, is a choice. And I say it's a choice in the sense of, you can see one thing, here's a nice mint here, you can be joyous by that and say, oh, how lucky we are to have mints here. Or you can look at it and say, oh my goodness, they put sugar on the table. We actually have a the power over how we respond to things. And I make that really simplicity because sometimes we think we don't have power over our response. But there's 23 human emotions. So for me, it's not about an emotion, it's about a value set or a behaviour set. And what I want for my kids is that they be respectful, responsible, and resilient, because resilience is what delivers outcome. So my son works in farming, and he's been out mustering cattle in far northeast Western Australia as a jackaroo, and he's now working in Western Victoria, and he works physically so hard, like really hard. No weekends, from dawn till dusk, all of this sort of thing. That resilience serves him incredibly well. And does he feel a sense of pride and accomplishment at the end of the day? Absolutely. So hard work, and sometimes it's overcoming things that actually creates the greatest experience of euphoria and happiness. So I have a concern that we're so busy making our little kids' lives fault-free that without their ability to pick themselves up, they won't know what resilience is. And so happiness for me is a journey. It is not a destination. Some days are good and some days are bad. What would be boring for me is if every day was happy. I need contrast to vividly live life. I need contrast.
It's kind of like people say about LA, that because the sky is blue every day, don't you just get over that? Personally, I could do blue skies every single day, but I think most people prefer to have those stormy days so that they can appreciate those sunny ones.
Yeah, it's like a richness from your life that you're looking for rather than just coasting through.
Yeah, and a story, if we think about the 7 storylines of Hollywood, and one of them is the reluctant hero, and that's a classic Hollywood story. And so therefore, if that reluctant hero doesn't face adversity, then the happy ending isn't going to mean anything, because it was just happy the whole way. So that is the story of life, and we all have our own story.
Yeah, and I guess knowing that kind of as an adult kind of gets you through those harder times, knowing that like just because you're going through a hard time right now doesn't mean that you're not overall going to be happy or have a good life. It's just kind of part of the journey that we all go through.
And
so when we live with purpose, and purpose is about how you contribute to others, that's where true joy lies. And it's not what you get, it's what you give. And I know as parents we say that all the time. They go, yeah. But actually once people learn that and they realise it's about how they contribute, it's the work, it's their toil that creates outcome, then and being purposeful for others, and that's where happiness lies.
You mentioned like your impact and your purpose. Are there what I'm just personally interested, like what are the things that you're really focusing on now that you want to put your time towards?
I'm really keen on growing the Big Red Group, because experiences, to make them accessible and make sure they're really great, and to broaden what we do into new geographies and new experiences. I think that's really great. And it's kind of like that's what I chose to be my thing. But in so doing that, then I get to be a role model in all sorts of industries. And, it's enough. It's good. I'm having a good time doing that.
You are a very inspiring role model. We honestly had the best time this morning hearing you speak. Like, it was informative, but it was also very like quirky and silly and had us laughing.
And relatable, which is like what you want from when you're going to a big scary seminar and you're walking in at 9 a.m. on the first day. You just want it to be relatable.
Yeah, it's often challenging as a speaker, because I had everybody in the room from a complete startup to people who are running, massively 100 million turnover businesses. So that is the challenge as a speaker, is to dance in the conversation and have as many people brought into the conversation as you possibly can.
Well, you did a very good job. So thank you. We love that.
Job.
So before we wrap up, we do always finish on a few quick fire questions.
Oh, okay. I'll sit up straight and behave myself.
Oh, great. Sit up straight, please.
Yeah.
Taking you back to Shark Tank days.
I know.
So the first question is, how many pieces of red do you own in your wardrobe?
Oh, that's just embarrassing to say. It'd be more than 100. Like more, maybe 200.
I would love to just see your wardrobe. Like, do you have any photos on Instagram that we can look at that is just like red everywhere?
Oh, I've probably got one in there somewhere. Oh, I've got one of Janine in my wardrobe, actually. That's odd. I had the Sharks over for dinner last season, I think, and she went straight to it's actually on Janine's Instagram.
Okay.
She goes, guess where I am? And she's in my wardrobe.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
We'll have to do a deep dive.
I love that you guys are genuinely friends. Like, you had them all over for dinner. That's like made my day.
Yeah, they're all good eggs. They're all, we all came from nothing, and we all respect each other, even though we're very different. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So what is the first thing you do when you wake up?
My husband gets me a cup of coffee, so I kiss him and thank him so much.
Oh, what a good
He
husband.
sounds so lovely.
He is.
Is he here right now?
Yeah. He's
He's going to drive you home after or something?
Oh, yeah.
What's the craziest red balloon experience you've ever done?
Oh, craziest. I've done a lot. Like I did one last week, which was for my business partner, and I hosted a dinner at home, and it was a beautiful degustation dinner. So it was 7 courses with wines to match, but the whole dinner was blindfolded.
Oh, that's
my
so
God.
And
cool.
then you had to guess what the courses were.
That's so fun.
And what was so great is because he's the CEO, right? And so I'm doing this. He goes, this is amazing. We should have it on the website. I go, we do. That's a red balloon experience. So, it's hard to choose a favourite, but because I have done so many. I mean, just so many, from walking in the wilderness out of Cooktown with an Indigenous leader to, dinner in the Daintree, to lots of experiences here on the Gold Coast, from hot air ballooning to, I literally have done many, many, many.
Have you gone skydiving?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
I was expecting your answer to be skydiving.
No, I loved it. A tougher experience for me, or a more extreme experience for me, was when we went heli skiing.
Oh, terrifying.
So we went heli skiing, and I went with the kids, and you get off in New Zealand in the helicopter, and you put your skis on, and it's a really thin Alp, and I'm not joking, it's not even as wide as this table, and you're putting your skis on, and then the guide takes you either left or right. And of course, I'm just the last one coming down the hill, and the kids are just down like, whatever. And Oscar's like, oh, Mum, you take so long. And I said, I do not see that many mummies on this hill. And the guide said, yeah, actually, we don't get many mothers, skiing with their kids down here. And they said, anyway, I got back to the office. So that was one week. And I got back to the office on a Monday morning, and everyone's hanging around my desk. And I said, what are you doing? And they go, we're going skydiving. And I go, oh, I don't need to go skydiving. And it was on my never ever list. Don't tell the guys from Skydive. But I said it was on my never ever list. And they said, oh. I said, what? And I go, oh, well, may as well go. I'm wearing a mini skirt, and I'm wearing these heels, boots with heels.
Red.
And anyway, and they said, don't worry, we got this for you. So, so I wear these overalls, and I go and I do the jump. And I didn't even get butterflies in my stomach. Compared to heli skiing, which you're completely responsible on your own to get down that mountain, avalanches, ice, whatever, versus do I trust this person who's packed the chute? He does it 12 times a day, yes. So it's actually, as far as I'm concerned, much safer and easier to jump with someone else.
They both sound kind of terrifying, to be honest. Yeah. What 3 words would your kids use to describe you?
Oh, my kids would describe me as loud, embarrassing, and and focused.
What business would you love to see pitched to you on Shark Tank?
I really did like that guy who doesn't have Band-Aids. They're called patches that are good. Yesterday there was
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's not because, and we're not allowed to call them Band-Aids because actually that's a brand.
It's a brand.
Yes.
But that has allergies. I go, gosh, it's sometimes the simplest idea that has the greatest resonance.
What does it have in it?
But they're non-allergic. A lot of people are allergic to the glue and the plastic, and they get a allergic reaction. So there's 25% of people can't use either Elastoplast, Band-Aids and so forth, and he's invented something that's completely non-allergenic. And he's got distribution now in 50 countries, and if I could remember the name, that would even be more interesting.
It would be great. Maybe we can find him and put in the show notes, and maybe he can get in touch with you because it sounds like you might want to invest.
Oh, I think he's done with that. I think he's well away. You want to get them just before they take off.
Totally.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing, and happy we got to catch you here in Surface. We're like
And
just
also,
crossed over.
and also love that you're in a different red outfit for this occasion than you were for this morning.
A little more casual, I was thinking.
Perfect.
Good
I'm
one.
not sure if you like carry extra red outfits around in the car or your bag or you went home, but I'm loving it either way. And you always look amazing in your red.
Thank you, Steph. Cheers. Thanks, Jess.